Before this performance ended, a world-famous judge who never cries was wiping tears from his eyes, reaching for the golden buzzer, and saying words no one expected to hear. This is the unbelievable true-to-life story of a poor father and son from Cebu whose voices carried not just music, but pain, sacrifice, and a bond so deep it changed everything on that stage. If you love emotional stories that restore your faith in family and dreams, subscribe now, because stories like this deserve to be remembered. Long before the bright lights, roaring crowds, and global attention, the story of the Cebu father-son duo began in a small coastal barangay where mornings smelled of saltwater and evenings echoed with the sound of waves hitting wooden boats. Their home was a fragile structure made of patched tin sheets and aging wood, standing bravely against storms that visited far too often. Inside that home lived a father named Ramon and his son Miguel, bound together not only by blood but by survival. Ramon had once dreamed of becoming a professional singer. As a teenager, he possessed a powerful voice that stopped people in local fiestas. Neighbors would gather outside their home whenever he sang, some smiling, some crying, some whispering that this boy would one day be famous. But dreams are fragile when poverty enters the room. When Raymond's father fell ill, medical bills swallowed everything, and the dream of music quietly slipped away. Ramon quit school, took whatever work he could find, and promised himself that dreams were luxuries meant for other people. Years later, when Miguel was born, Ramon held him in his arms and sang softly, not to impress anyone but to soothe the tiny life that now depended on him. Miguel would fall asleep instantly when his father sang. That became their ritual. Every night, no matter how tired Ramon was from hauling fish or repairing boats under the scorching sun, he sang to his son. Those songs were old Filipino ballads, love songs, and sometimes melodies Ramon created himself, filled with words he never had the courage to say out loud. As Miguel grew older, something remarkable happened. He began singing back. At first, it was childish humming, then broken lyrics, then perfect pitch. Ramon noticed it immediately. The boy's voice was clear, emotional, and strangely mature for his age. One evening, when Miguel was barely 8 years old, Ramon stopped singing mid-song. He looked at his son and realized the voice he once had was now living inside this child. Life, however, was not gentle. When Miguel turned 10, his mother passed away after a long illness. The house grew quieter. The laughter disappeared. Ramon became both father and mother overnight. To survive, he worked longer hours, sometimes leaving before sunrise and returning long after dark. Miguel often waited alone, doing homework by candlelight, listening for his father's footsteps. Music became their escape. They sang while washing clothes by the river. They sang while walking to the market. They sang while grief sat silently between them. Singing was not just a hobby. It was how they breathed. One afternoon, while performing casually near a bus terminal to earn a few extra pesos, someone recorded them on a phone. The video showed a tired father harmonizing with his young son, both barefoot, both singing with raw emotion. That video slowly spread online. Comments poured in. People said the boy sounded like an angel. Others said the father's voice carried years of unspoken pain. Then came a message that changed everything. An audition invitation. At first, Ramon thought it was a joke. International talent shows were for rich kids with vocal coaches and fancy clothes. They almost ignored it. But Miguel begged. He said this was their chance. Not for fame, but to prove that their songs mattered. They borrowed money for travel. Neighbors donated clothes. Ramon polished his only pair of shoes until they looked almost new. Miguel wore a shirt that was 2 sizes too big, but he wore it proudly. When they arrived at the audition venue, surrounded by confident contestants, Ramon felt small. He nearly walked away. His hands trembled. His voice cracked before he even sang. But Miguel squeezed his hand and whispered something that broke him. "You taught me how to sing. Now let me sing for you." When they stepped onto the stage, the judges smiled politely, expecting another emotional but forgettable audition. Simon Cowell leaned back, arms crossed, ready to listen but not impressed yet. Then the music began. Ramon started the song alone. His voice was deep, controlled, but heavy with history. Every note carried years of regret, sacrifice, and dreams buried alive. Then Miguel joined in. His voice soared effortlessly, pure and piercing, wrapping around his father's like hope embracing pain. The audience fell silent. Simon leaned forward. Halfway through the song, something unexpected happened. Raymond's voice faltered. Tears rolled down his face. He tried to stop, but Miguel kept singing, gently guiding his father back into the melody. The roles reversed in that moment. The sun became the strength. By the final note, the entire room was crying. Simon Cowell stood up. He did not speak immediately. His eyes were wet. He took a breath and said that in all his years judging talent, he had never seen a performance that felt this real. He said this was not just singing. This was life. Then he pressed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti rained down as Miguel collapsed into his father's arms. Ramon sobbed openly, no longer ashamed of his tears. He had spent his whole life being strong, and in that moment, he finally allowed himself to feel. But the biggest twist came after the show. Backstage, Simon met them privately. He told Ramon something that changed him forever. He said that Raymond's voice was never ordinary. It had always been special. The world just never gave him time to listen. That sentence healed a wound Ramon didn't know was still open. Their story did not end with the golden buzzer. It began there. They became symbols of hope, of second chances, of dreams passed from parent to child not as burdens but as gifts. Miguel later said that his father was his hero, not because he sang well, but because he never stopped believing, even when life tried to silence him. And Ramon finally understood that dreams don't die. They wait.